Hi, I'm Rachel. At 58, I thought I'd seen it all, especially when it came to my son Derek. He'd always been headstrong, but family was family until he married Vanessa 3 years ago. The change wasn't immediate, but like water eroding stone, their attitude gradually wore away at our relationship. Mom, we're here, Derek called from the entryway. I was hosting my annual summer barbecue, and despite the growing tension, family traditions continued. I'd spent hours preparing, hoping this gathering might somehow bridge the widening gap between us. In the kitchen, I replied, arranging deviled eggs. Could use an extra hand. Derek strolled in, Vanessa trailing behind. He gave me a quick side hug while Vanessa offered a tight smile that didn't reach her eyes. Place looks the same as always, Derek commented, glancing around. There was a hint of criticism in his tone that hadn't been there before his marriage. Some things don't need changing, I replied, handing him a tray. Would you mind taking this out? Your Uncle Frank just arrived? As they moved toward the door, Vanessa's eyes narrowed at my serving dishes. Derek mentioned you're still using your mother's old china, she said. I sent you those modern platters for Christmas. They'd look so much better for entertaining. These dishes have sentimental value. My mother used them for 40 years. Well, sometimes we need to let go of the past, Vanessa replied with a dismissive wave. Derek and I redecorated our entire house last year. Fresh start, fresh look. My friend Diane arrived, saving me from responding. Rachel, sorry I'm late, she said, bustling in with a casserole. Traffic was a nightmare. I swear they time road construction for maximum inconvenience. Perfect timing, I smiled. Derek and Vanessa just arrived. Diane gave me a knowing look. She'd heard plenty during our weekly coffee dates. How are things? She whispered when they stepped outside. The usual. Every visit feels like an inspection I'm failing. The afternoon progressed pleasantly until dinner, when conversation turned to their recent renovation. Mom insisted we keep her grandmother's kitchen table, Derek said, rolling his eyes. A scratched-up oak monstrosity. It was my wedding gift to you, I reminded him. Your father and I picked it out together. And we appreciated the sentiment, Vanessa cut in. But it just doesn't work with our aesthetic. We're not sentimental hoarders. Derek laughed too loudly. That's my wife. She really put Mom in her place about that table. We sold it at a garage sale last month. I felt the table go quiet. Frank's fork clattered against his plate. You did what? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. It was just taking up space, Derek shrugged. Like Vanessa said, time to let go of old things. Frank's expression darkened. Interesting way to talk about a family heirloom, and even more interesting way to talk about your mother. It's just an expression, Derek said defensively. Is it? Because I've been sitting here listening to you both take shots at your mother all afternoon in her own home? I placed my napkin beside my plate. I think I need a moment. I walked inside, ignoring Derek calling after me. Through the window, I could see Frank confronting Derek. Diane slipped inside to join me. Did you hear what he said? I asked, my hands shaking. His wife put me in my place. Like I'm some disobedient child. I heard, Diane said gently. And so did everyone else. Frank appeared in the doorway, face flushed with anger. Rachel, you won't believe what your son just told me when I called him out. What did he say? I asked. He said it's not the first time they've gotten rid of your gifts. Apparently that quilt you made for their anniversary is gone too. The quilt had taken me 8 months to complete, each square representing a memory from Derek's childhood. I'd stayed up countless nights working on it, often with tears in my eyes as I stitched together pieces of our shared history. That's not all, Frank continued. When I told him how disrespectful he was being, he laughed and said you've always been too sensitive. Vanessa chimed in that they have a running joke about your outdated ideas. I suspected things were tense, Diane said, but I had no idea it had gone this far. There's more, Frank said, lowering his voice. I overheard Vanessa telling their friends that they have you trained now to not offer opinions on their lifestyle choices. My hands trembled. Trained? Like I'm some sort of pet? Frank leaned against the counter. Remember how Dad always told us to stand up for ourselves? I think it's time you had a serious talk with Derek. What would I even say? He clearly doesn't respect me anymore. You start by stating facts, Diane suggested. No accusations, just what you heard and how it made you feel. The patio door opened, and Derek walked in alone, looking annoyed and embarrassed. Mom, can we talk? Privately? Whatever you have to say, you can say in front of them, I replied. They're my support system. Derek sighed. Fine. Look, I think Uncle Frank misunderstood. Vanessa and I were just joking around. Joking about putting your mother in her place? Frank challenged. About having her trained? Do you hear yourself, Derek? Derek's face flushed. You're taking everything out of context. Tell me about the quilt, Derek, I said quietly. He hesitated. What about it? The anniversary quilt I made. Where is it? We needed to make space in the guest room, he stammered. It didn't match the new bedding. So you threw it away? I pressed. We donated it, he corrected quickly. Diane shook her head. Derek, do you hear yourself? This is exactly why we don't tell you things, Mom, Derek snapped. You get emotional over objects. It's not about the objects, I said, my voice stronger. It's about the dismissal, the disrespect. When did I become someone you joke about putting in place? You're overreacting, Derek insisted. We can't keep walking on eggshells around your feelings. Frank stepped forward. That's not what this is about, and you know it. Stay out of this, Uncle Frank, Derek warned. No, I interjected. He stays. I want to understand when our relationship changed. Nothing changed, Derek protested. You just got more controlling, more judgmental of our choices. Give me one example, I challenged. Derek hesitated. Like when you questioned our decision to buy the house in Lakewood instead of closer to you. I asked if you'd considered the commute time to your office, I corrected. That's not judgment, that's practical concern. See? There you go again, thinking you know better, Derek said bitterly. The patio door opened and Vanessa stepped inside, her expression cooling when she saw us. Everything okay in here? She asked, looking at Derek. Just clearing the air, Derek replied tensely. About? Vanessa prompted. I took a deep breath. About you and Derek joking that you've put me in my place and trained me. Vanessa's eyes widened briefly before her expression settled. I see Frank has been stirring the pot. Don't deflect, Frank said firmly. I heard what I heard. You misunderstood friendly banter, Vanessa insisted. We would never intentionally disrespect Rachel. Selling her gifts at garage sales seems pretty intentional, Diane pointed out. Vanessa's gaze hardened. Our home, our decisions. We're not obligated to keep things just because they were gifts. It's not about keeping the items, I explained. It's about the thoughtlessness of disposing of meaningful gifts without a conversation, then bragging about it. We didn't think it was that big a deal, Derek shrugged. Let me ask you something, I said, looking at my son. If I took that watch your father left you and sold it without telling you, how would you feel? Derek's hand moved to his wrist, where he wore his father's vintage Omega. That's different. How? Because Dad's gone, and this is all I have left from him, he stammered. And that table was the last thing your father and I picked out together before he got sick, I replied. I told you that when we gave it to you. For the first time that evening, Derek looked uncomfortable. I didn't remember that part. Or maybe you didn't listen, Frank suggested. Vanessa crossed her arms. This is getting blown way out of proportion. We came here expecting respect, I countered. Not to be mocked behind our backs. No one was mocking you, Derek insisted, though his confidence was wavering. Put in her place. Trained her not to offer opinions, Frank quoted. What would you call that? Derek looked to Vanessa, who stepped forward. Look, Rachel, sometimes your opinions can be a bit persistent. We were just expressing frustration. At my dinner table, I pointed out. In my home. Fine, Vanessa said tersely. We apologize if our words hurt your feelings. Her apology rang hollow. the if making it clear she placed the blame on my sensitivity. This isn't about hurt feelings, I said. This is about fundamental respect. I'm your mother, Derek, not someone to be managed or dismissed. Mom, you're making this into a bigger deal than it needs to be, Derek pleaded. I need to know that you understand why your behavior was hurtful. Fine, it was hurtful. We shouldn't have said those things. Can we drop it now? That's not an apology, Frank pointed out. That's just wanting the conversation to end. Vanessa's patience snapped. This is exactly the problem. Nothing is ever enough for you. We've apologized, but you just keep pushing and pushing. Watch your tone, Diane warned. Or what? Vanessa challenged. This is what Derek and I deal with constantly, this emotional manipulation. Manipulation? I echoed, stunned. Asking for basic respect is manipulation? You're twisting everything, Vanessa exclaimed. Tell her, Derek. Tell her how she's always making you feel guilty for living your own life. Derek looked cornered. Mom, you do sometimes make us feel like we're disappointing you. Like what? Give me a concrete example. Like when you kept suggesting different paint colors for our living room after we'd already decided? I sent you one text with a photo from a magazine, once. It's the pattern, Vanessa interjected. The constant little suggestions, the thinly veiled disapproval. That's your interpretation, I replied. Not my intention. Intentions don't matter if the result is the same, Vanessa shot back. Frank tried to diffuse the tension. I think we all need to take a step back. No, I said firmly. I've been stepping back for 3 years. I will not accept being spoken about disrespectfully. Or what? Derek challenged, his expression hardening. What exactly are you going to do, Mom? I'm going to establish my own boundaries, I said. First, I want you both to leave my home. Mom, Derek started. No, I cut him off. I've heard enough for tonight. Frank headed outside to help with their guests. Vanessa's face flushed with anger. This is ridiculous, she hissed. You're throwing us out over a comment taken out of context? I'm asking you to leave because you've made it clear you don't respect me, I corrected. Until that changes, I need distance. Fine, Derek snapped, grabbing his keys. Call us when you're ready to be reasonable. They stormed out, leaving Diane and me in the quiet kitchen. Are you okay? Diane asked softly. No, I admitted, but I will be. The next morning, I called my lawyer, Patricia, who'd helped settle my late husband's estate. I need to make changes to my will and property arrangements, I explained. My voice was steady now, the trembling from the night before replaced with resolve. We met for coffee that day, where I explained what had happened. So you want to remove Derek as your primary beneficiary? Patricia confirmed, taking detailed notes in her leather-bound planner. Not remove entirely, I clarified, but establish a trust with specific conditions, and I want to change the status of the house. Patricia nodded thoughtfully. We can certainly do that. The trust would give you more control over how assets are distributed and under what circumstances. What about the family heirlooms in Derek's possession? Items that were gifted as family keepsakes, not to be sold. Do I have any recourse there? We could document the items with significant value and create a formal agreement moving forward. It might be challenging to reclaim what's already gone, but we can protect what remains. Over the next 2 weeks, I didn't hear from Derek or Vanessa. Each day of silence strengthened my resolve rather than weakening it. He'll come around, Frank assured me during one of our calls. Maybe, I replied, but something's changed. I won't go back to walking on eggshells. It was 17 days after the dinner when Derek finally called. Mom, can we talk? In person, just you and me. We met at a cafe downtown. Derek was already there, looking disheveled. You changed the locks, he said as I sat down. Yes. And Uncle Frank says you've been meeting with your lawyer. I nodded. Patricia's been very helpful. So that's it? One argument and you're writing me out of your will? Not writing you out. Restructuring things to protect family assets and heirlooms? Mom, about what happened. I want to know if you understand why your behavior was wrong. Derek sighed, running his hands through his hair. Vanessa and I shouldn't have talked about you that way. It was disrespectful. And we shouldn't have gotten rid of your gifts without telling you, he added. Do you understand why that hurt me? I pressed. Because they were from you and Dad. Also because it shows a fundamental lack of respect for our family history and for me as a person. Derek fidgeted with his napkin. Vanessa thinks you're overreacting. I'm not talking to Vanessa right now. I'm talking to my son, who once understood the value of family. I still do, he insisted. Then act like it, I challenged. You've allowed your wife to dictate your relationship with your family. Derek looked ashamed. What can I do to fix this? Are you willing to establish new respectful boundaries? Because I won't be put in my place ever again? Yes, he said, then hesitated. But Vanessa might need some time to come around. That's her choice. My relationship with you isn't contingent on her, but my relationship with both of you requires mutual respect. So where do we go from here? He asked. I've arranged for an appraiser to document the remaining family heirlooms. Patricia is drawing up an agreement about their status as family property. You're serious, he said, surprised. I'm also establishing a family trust rather than direct inheritance, with Frank as a co-trustee. Derek was quiet for a moment. This feels like punishment. It's protection, I corrected. For our family history and for my peace of mind. Can we still fix things between us? He asked. That's up to you, I said honestly. I'll always love you. But love without respect isn't enough. Do you think things will ever be the same? Derek asked as we left. No, I answered. But different doesn't have to mean worse. It means we've learned something about respect and boundaries. Walking to my car, I thought about my father's words. Stand up for yourself once, and you'll never regret it. Fail to stand up for yourself, and you'll regret it forever. It had taken me 58 years to understand. But driving home to my peaceful house with its new locks, I knew I'd made the right choice. Sometimes the hardest boundaries to set are with the people we love most. But they're often the ones we need most desperately. What would you do if someone you loved spoke about you that way?